you're ready now.
Okay, thank you. I am starting sharing my desktop actually, so we can share the screen and go ahead with our presentation. Okay, so we will be talking about Project Online and the new integration with the Agile World, and some examples taken from a demo environment using both Project Online and Project Professional. Thank you to the sponsors of this Project Virtual Conference, and thanks to all of them that could make it real. Just a few words around our company, SNext. We have been working in the Microsoft environment and project environment since the early year 2000. And our aim goal is to create integrated solutions for PPM environment. We also deliver training and certifications path, software development and workflow application. So basically, we develop apps and extensions to the Project Online and Project On-Prem versions to connect these worlds with SAP or other ERPs or ticketing systems. We are also specialized, as I said, in delivering custom training with the aim to bring the participants to be certified both with the PMI, PMP certification and also the Prince2 certification. Just to give you an example of some of our customers, we work with ABB, Conad, Avio, Lavazza, Fendi, Fashion Group, Microsoft as well, some banks like Allianz, Unipolsai, industry like Prismian and Fiat Group. And for them, we again have developed different configuration systems based on different versions of our project environment. Let's get started with the Agile functionalities in Project Online. First of all, I would like just to remind to the group, to ourselves, the path that Microsoft Project has been following during these years. We started following the product and the platform early 2000s with the integration with Office, and the aim and the evolution has always followed the idea of getting more and more into collaboration, into a real unified project and portfolio management system and tool. So that we can say now that with the innovation of the cloud and the acceleration of delivering new features, we are actually able to talk about a real project and portfolio management system integrated with, fully integrated with the functionalities of Office 365. The ability to get new releases and new features is actually helped through the fact that through Office 365, through the cloud, we get all the updates automatically delivered in our project desktop, if it's the case, or in our project online, project web app environment, if that's the case as well. Talking about our Agile integration, this is actually something that touches both environments. Some parts, the main parts, are actually delivered through new ribbons and new functionalities in Project Professional, but some of them are also delivered through the PWA setup with the possibility to work with enterprise project types and work with Agile in PWA as well. Again, just to summarize, for those of us who don't actually know the process and the changes in the platform, we actually started with a single project manager tool, desktop tool with Microsoft Project, and then we are now talking about a project and portfolio management tool where the old client tool is actually part of a full solution of a combination of different high-level features. The new idea of delivering information is actually built for getting comfortable with devices, with apps, with mobile, that are the devices that we usually work in our daily life. The tool itself is built for teamwork because we can see directly in the tool the integration with like Planner or Teams, or again the Agile that we are gonna see together in a few moments, and the visual integration with the Agile integration, working also with screens that are actually different from what we are used to with the usual Gantt chart and waterfall approach that we are used to activate in MS Project, in Microsoft Project. So let's talk about a little bit about the Agile methodology, just for reminding us some of the words, some of the terms that we will be seeing in the project interface as well. So basically we are working with the idea of project and product vision. Basically, we do a short planning session to outline and list all the objectives of the project, ensure that the work is being completed with each iteration as per the final project vision. Sprint planning. Sprint basically is the element of Agile. A sprint plan categorizes items in sprints, meaning packages of activities that have to be done in a sort of sequence. There is not really a fully logical sequence, so we're not talking about links between the sprints, but still logical predecessors and successors in terms of modules and activities that have to be done before the second sprint can start, or the next sprint can start. We can plan releases after a number of iterations. We can say, okay, now my release is ready. So basically, we work in defining the objective, working on developing the objective, reviewing the objective with the team and with the client, reprocess again. So we in an iterational approach, and planning in short sessions during each release allows us to actually prepare a package of functionalities that will be part of the final release. Product backlog, this is something that we will see in the interface as well. Basically, is the repository of all the work items. Work items are actually the activities, the tasks that we are assigning to our team. The project owner can update the work items as per the business requirements. So while we review the activities, the work items that have been released, we can also review the list of the work items in the backlog, change them, change the priority, and change the association to the specific sprint. Scrum, this is actually a meeting that is done during our activities in Agile, and we actually work in Scrum, defining what are the current sprint, what are the sprints that have been completed, and what are the remaining items for the following sprints. There are two different ways of working in Agile in MS Project, two different interfaces. One is the Scrum tool, and the other one is the Kanban tool. Mainly in Project, we use Scrum with limited deadline periods that are called sprints, so we will see the sprint and the sprint board, while in Kanban we mainly use the single backlog as a sort of bucket of activities to be done, and we manage the ones that we have to work on as an active list of work items, versus the next activities that will be coming in the following steps. In the interface, we also have Agile reports, and in addition to the usual project dashboard, resource dashboard, earned value reports, overview situation of the project. We also have a new area called Agile reports, where we can actually see and check the definition of our work items, sprints and backlogs, and see the situation of current sprint and next sprint and resources working on current sprint and next sprints through the reports in our Microsoft Project client. Just to give you an idea of how we can get started with the tool, we have templates directly in Microsoft Project, so we can start up our Agile approach by selecting, as you can see, Scrum project or Kanban project versus the traditional ways of working in waterfall or working with Gantt template with activities predefined in the template. Once we open our Agile template, we are actually able to connect to different tools like Visual Studio Online, TFS, so that we can actually have inside an existing project parts of the project that will be managed in Agile versus parts of the projects that will be managed with the traditional approach, with the waterfall approach. We can define the product backlog, as we said. We can build our team of resources based on availability, skills, work that have to be done, effort that has been defined in the backlog, schedule the work in iteration, so in different sprints, and then track and complete our work within the different sprints. Once we have set up the project, basically we have a product backlog sheet that, as you can see, allows us to view summaries and list our work items within the summaries, define the story points, define the possible risk, and define the epic connected to that specific work item. Once we move to the iteration definition, as you can see, the frame, the board, shows us the backlog and a definition of a sequence of possible sprints. I can define sprint name, sprint date, start date, and end date, and create my sprint. And then I can move my items from the backlog into the sprint interface. Next, again, doing a drag and drop, I can move my work item from the backlog to the current sprint. I can also work with sprints that have been renamed, like November sprint, October sprint, as you can see here, December, backlog, next, in progress. So basically we have different views where we can also rename the sprints from just a sequence to actually speaking names, descriptions, plan them in the board, but we can also define resources and work on a specific calendar as we are used to do in MS Project. So this is no different from the way we build a team and we look for available resources in our Microsoft Project professional plan. Of course, since we are working in Project Online, the effect of planning our resources is reflected in all the resource reports and resource availability reports. Once we have our sprint defined, we can see the iteration in the work item, and we can connect our environment to, for instance, Visual Studio. That means that we can use third-party connector to actually set up a connection of a bunch of selected tasks in MS Project to a specific project in Visual Studio. those work items can be tracked directly in Visual Studio, can be closed directly in Visual Studio, and through the connector, we will be able to see the updates in MS Project. Updates meaning both working hours versus actuals, dates, and of course, situation of replanning of those dates in case needed, or in case of additional information given through the Visual Studio tool. Going to the reports, here are some examples of the reports that we have inside Microsoft Project. So basically, the possibility to view sprint status and remaining work, to view in the specific Agile task status and work status reports, but also the current sprint task status and current sprint work status. So the overall and the specific. Now I want to go to the demo directly live from a demo environment, a Project Online demo environment. Let me just abandon the presentation and let's go to the Project Online environment. This is actually the PWA environment where we can list all projects by type in this case. So as you can see, we have some Agile projects and some other traditional type of project like application development, announcement, so different templates that have been used to populate this environment. As I said, we can start up Agile project by using specific enterprise project type, so-called enterprise project type in Project Online, meaning that we will be using a specific project site to define our project, specific project fields to define the project form or the project charter, and going to the Gantt chart. Basically, the connection to this project type is to use the either Scrum or Kanban template. So when I start up an Agile project, there is a very simple form in order to be able to create my project charter. And once I have created in my system, project virtual conference within Agile. As you can see, I don't have that many mandatory fields. So let's say this is okay, like this. I'm the owner and finish. So while the system is creating our project, I want to give you a hint of how a project can be created using the project client, so the project professional environment. Basically, I already have my project professional connected here. Just to give you an overview of the changes applied automatically by the updates in Office 365 through the Agile connector. As you can see, I have a new Agile icon here, and in the reports, I have an Agile icon as well. How do I open up a new Agile project? File, New. In the template, as you can see, I can open up a Scrum project or a Kanban project. Let's go for the Scrum. And we move away from the traditional Gantt chart that is currently used in most of the templates, to go for what is called a sprint board, where we can actually list the work item here on the left, list them, and then move them to the sprint columns in order to plan them in the different sprints. Let me show you. Okay, so this is my Agile project where I have a project request and the review, and of course, possibility to go for a project schedule. As you can see, is already completed with placeholders of sprint, placeholders of work items. If I go to my project center again, let me close this. Okay, to my Agile environment. Let me update the list. So while our project is created, and then I go down to the client to show you a couple of existing projects. We can see them in our Agile section here. Electronic asset and customer satisfaction portal development. I've opened both of them. Electronic assets you can view. You can still view the project under the traditional view, like the Gantt chart. As you can see here, we work in releases, and we have work items defined with no sprint, no specific sprint association. Everything is listed in our task backlog board. So how do I change view in a Agile view? I can go here, click on Agile, define which is the way I would like to utilize, and confirm. As you can see, I have a new ribbon here that pops up, and from here I can decide to plan. How do I want to plan my sprint? I can use the planning board. We can also hide the timeline from here, so we have more space. Okay, so this is actually our backlog, our list of work items, and simply I can drag my items here. Drag them according to what I have designed in my task board and task sheet. So what I need to do here is to go, for instance, to the planning sheet. As you can see, my 3 items are already associated to the sprint 1. Then I have 2 more to go for sprint 2. So I can also do it here. As you can see, I have the list of my sprints, and I can work with list, selecting the sprints directly from this board. Sprint 4, sprint 5, and so on. So I can proceed doing this, and of course, if I go back to the planning board, I will see my work items already distributed through the different sprints. In this example, we have a lot, something like 33, 35. How do I define more than the 3 placeholders that the template gives me? I'll just show you the template. As you can see, my template has only 3 sprints and the backlog. Let's do it from here. In here, I have this manage sprint, manage the configuration. And if I work with my finish date, the system is actually calculating automatically the sprints needed to go for our finish date. Let me show you the project information so we can reconnect. So if we define our finish date, the project starts on starting date, and the sprints are actually distributed over the different slots of 2 weeks to go for our finish date. If we change and we say, let's work with a custom date, so let's say, for instance, I want to finish my project on the end of July. As you can see, I have 1 additional sprint, 2 weeks from the 18th to the 31st. And if I confirm, I have my new sprint here. And then again, another example, inventory access, no sprint, and in here we have less sprints, but some of those have been already completed. So I can, as you can see, the tasks have been completed. If I go here to my current or to my global sprint board, as you can see, I have everything not defined because I haven't defined yet the association to a specific activity. If I go to my current sprint board, it's actually the same because I have nothing ongoing. If I go to my sprint planning, again, I have the full list of work items. Something additional is the possibility to see the resources. How does this happen? This happens through the creation of a team on my project. So in this case, I do add resources from my enterprise resource team. And as you can see, I have names, I have local resources, I have roles like the project manager, like the developer. I can add people, of course, and this is the usual MS project configuration. If I click OK, my team has changed and I can work with assigning resources through the traditional board. So let's say I take a new resource, 100%, confirm, and again, the name appears in here. Going back to our view, if I go to my sprint planning sheet, I can have the resource names and resource column in here, so I can use the traditional way to associate resources. Clicking and configuring, associating the resources to the task directly here. And of course, this means calculation of effort based on how many people and the duration of my work item. Of course, I can add columns as usual in project. As you can see here, I have sprints by 2 weeks, and I should be planning the same for the other work items. Okay, I have again resources here. If I confirm and publish, all the reports based on the resource workload will be updated with the additional workload coming from the Agile projects. Let me go back to the view, full view. Okay, so here, as you can see, we have a list of completed items, and we were concentrating only on the ones that will be planned. So from here, I can associate again which sprint. Okay, let's do 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so again, going back to the sprint planning board, everything is divided through the different sprints. And as you can see, I can see the resources associated to the different work items. If I change my view and I go to a Kanban view, I will be able to work with backlog. I have my backlog board, and again, through drag and drop, I can say, okay, now this is next up, or this is in progress, this is next up. So I can define how my activities have to be developed by my team. Okay. And again, of course, if I go back to the sheet, as you can see, I have 1 task in progress, 4 next up, and 3 again still in our backlog. Can publish to update our project. Going back to our template, I just want to show you how you can set up your sprints by yourself. As we saw, if I go to manage, I can change the date. What I can do is change and rename here. So for instance, when we said the sprint June. Okay, so sprint June, July. sprint July 1 and sprint July 2. Okay? So when I change and confirm, as you can see, all the sprints have been renamed. I can set up my work item just by clicking names. Let's say, for instance, we are developing an app for our customer. So we want to meet customer for UI definition, add. Then DB design. Then I can have UI prototype, and so on and so forth, of course. And I move them. I can say, okay, in June, these are the work items we will be working on. Then in July, we want to work on DB prototype, functionalities definition, and I move it to June, July. Functionality prototype. Again, I want to do a demo of prototype to my customer, and I want to do it first sprint in July. Okay, so again, going back to our sheet, we will be able to see our sprint column with the sprints renamed and our work items that we have defined with the definition and the association to the sprints. Here we can express the effort in days, of course, or in hours. This is up to us. Let's say we are moving for 5 days to each. And again, I need to set up my team. So I will be doing a combination of traditional actions in MS Project plus new actions provided by the Agile integration. Okay, so here and again, and I go to my view, current sprint board. These are the tasks in my backlog, and now I can define with the customer, design, UI prototype. So I have the combination of the two, sprint sheet, backlog, next up, and the combination of the sprints. I want to utilize this view to show you how I can go back to a Gantt chart and actually be able to see the work items that I have defined in our backlog, in our Scrum board. Basically, the items that we are viewing in the board are tasks, basic tasks in MS Project traditional view. The tasks in Agile are planned utilizing, as you can see, the manual task mode. This allows us to move the tasks around and be able to see these tasks. Let me just show you here. Okay, to be able to see the tasks in our list and be able to move them around through the definition of what tasks are next up, what tasks are completed, and so on. And there is a trick, let's say, to define the tasks as Agile, to be utilized in Agile. As you can see, we have a new field in Project Online called Agile, and by selecting yes, I can view, or selecting no, I can hide my work items from the board. So for instance, in this case, I've hidden demo prototype to customer. Let's go back to Scrum. Let's go check the list. You see that I don't see my demo to customer anymore. This is because this view is a specific sheet based on this filter, Agile equals to yes. So in general, what we are using is the traditional board, the traditional components of Microsoft project, being able to filter, connect, group using our agile views. I want to show you how to complete activities. So here we said these are the next up activities. Spring June is our current sprint. And these are the items defined. So our current sprint board allows us to filter automatically what is called the current sprint based on today's date. And of course, the system concentrates on the work items planned for that sprint. If you remember, I go to my sprint planning board, Sprint June, these are the ones. 3 work items. Back to current sprint board, these are the ones. So I can say, okay, we have met the customer, we are working on the DB design. Next up, UI prototype. And as you can see here, I have a flag saying your activity has been completed. These updates can come from an integration with external tools like, as we said, Visual Studio. And again, to be able to confirm this information, I will do the traditional publish project that we have in MS Project. This is the first time we have just created the project, so project Agile number 2, let's say, and save. So again, let's stress the fact that we are using both the traditional components of MS Project and the new components provided by the Agile integration. I can go back, plan in Scrum, and if I go to the sprint board, as you can see, I have to define new tasks in my backlog. Go to my planning sheet, I have the list. These are the ones, and now in the next sprint, I will be working starting from next week. We defined the 5 days of activities per work item within the single sprint. Let's go back to one of the predefined projects here, because I want to show you the reports related to the Agile environment. So let's go to reports, let's go to Agile, and go through the different reports that we have. Agile task status, and again, sorry, but let me hide the timeline. So here, Agile task status, this is based on the board status by task. So we have backlog 82%, in progress 4%, next up 14%. Number of tasks over time, we are more or less 27, 28 to be done. Remaining tasks by resource, so here we have the teams associated to the different activities. Not assigned 5 work items, still to be assigned, 1 to the team, 1 to the second team, and 1 to the third team. Going up, we have a table showing sprint names, product backlog, and what's in progress, next up, and again product backlog, plus the resource names. Again, back to our reports. Work status. Here we can see by status, so how many hours are still in the backlog list, how many hours are in progress, how many hours are next up, some with actuals, where of course I have defined the percent completion and the work done by our resources, remaining work by resources, remaining work over time, from start date through end date of our project, and again, the remaining task with all the details, remaining hours, name of the work items, and sprint. Again, let's go for our current sprint analysis. Again, of course, we have the task status and the work status. Current sprint, we have none. Let's go to check this report in our Project Agile template, the one that comes from the template, current sprint. Here we go. So we see that we have one work item, 34% done, 33 in progress, 33 next up. And again, how many tasks I have remaining? 3 associated to this current sprint, sprint in June. Resources not assigned, 2 tasks with no resources, and these are actually the tasks with the lack of resource names. Let's go to the current sprint work status. And here, as you can see, I have 5 days. If you remember, we have defined 5 days per each work item. So again, we see 5 days, and I have some done, actual work, and remaining work with tasks in progress and next up. No value of resources yet on our current sprint, but we have some remaining work and some items that have been done. 35 days of activities and remaining work over time, and these are our tasks, remaining tasks. Let's go to the general report, sprint status. And this is actually the definition of our sprints, July, June, June, July, and work per sprint. Here the selection is based on the tasks that have the work item that have been associated to the sprints, and also, of course, work items that have resources associated. As you know, based on the templates, you can trigger new reports. So if you go to more reports, you can copy your Agile reports and define your own additional ones. Let me go back to the electronic asset, and let's check the reports in here. Everything in backlog. We haven't touched this project yet. Work status, no resources associated. Okay, so this gives you pretty full visibility of the situation of our activities and analysis of the current sprint status in a thorough way. And we can use these reports for reporting also in presentation, like PowerPoint, presentation to steering committee, presentation to our client, and so on. Once we have published data, the system is actually filling in. Let's go check our BI. I will be working with the current Microsoft standard package. This is actually the Project Online Content Pack delivered by Microsoft through Power BI application. And if I go to our portfolio overview, as you can see, I can go and select only the Agile projects. And the system shows us the projects that were listed in our project center. Of course, our new one is not yet present in the list just because synchronization in Power BI hasn't been triggered yet. And in here, we can analyze dates, cost, indicators like cost status, work status, schedule status, and we can also go and check the items in our SharePoint site where story card have been associated, where I can work with issues and risks, documents, of course, but let's go and check the story cards. As you can see, we have the different stories defined with a description, definition of done, the releases of sprint associated. So I'm expecting this project to be planned using these items. So through the BI, I can actually access the project site and check how the project has been planned. If I go back again to the project site and I go back to the home page, this is the timeline, and as you can see, I have release roadmap, release 1, sprint 2. I can go to my project details page to actually check the content of our schedule. Let's go and check it. And as you can see, I have my release and sprint defined with the details of the work items. Also in here, you can apply the logic of filtering by the Agile field so that you are able to create, to provide an Agile view in Project Online directly in PWA, let's say, so in our project web app, so that you can concentrate on the activities managed using the Agile method directly in PWA with no need of using MS Project as a tool to report. Of course, MS Project Project Professional has to be utilized to be able to work with our opening project, work with our definition of the items, because you have the board of both Scrum and planning only in Project Client. The ability to work in Agile is provided only for Project Online, because these updates are delivered automatically through the Office 365 admin platform. And if I go in here and I go Agile, now you know how to do it. I'm going to go Scrum, my planning board. Again, as you can see, no sprints. And if I go to my sprint board, no task for my current sprint. So what I would be doing again is working with my sprint mode, my sprint board, and plan the activities through time. And of course, publish the project to update the association to the sprints. Okay, now let me go back to my presentation just as a recap of what we saw together. Basically, we have been working with both Project Desktop and Project Online, and these are the main outcomes of the demo that I have been delivering to you so far. Sprints and Kanban and backlog management, 5 new Agile reports, as you saw through the report ribbon, 8 new views that you have inside the view ribbon and view command, all Agile tasks, backlog board, backlog sheet. So this is the list of the different views that I was using. 5 new columns because we have new fields to manage Agile, the Agile definition, the sprint, the backlog, the planning, and so on. New filters and new grouping, and resources and report progress directly from the Kanban views. I would like to thank you all. Let me go back to chat. Okay, if you have questions, if you have comments, I'm here willing to answer to all of your questions. No questions so far? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. Just if you want to take note of my email address and you have questions in the future, or you want to go in details with some examples, experiences, case studies that we are delivering to our customers, I'm here, willing to do it, and no problem with the time zone and time difference. So I hope you will enjoy the next session of the Project Virtual Conference, and thanks for coming and attending to my presentation. Thank you so much.